UCLA week is here, and this will be Nebraska's first opportunity to secure a bowl game berth since losing a heartbreaker in the Horseshoe. Gary, I think this should be a strong win for the Huskers, but I just never know which defense is showing up week to week. The black shirts that went toe-to-toe with Ohio State, or the defense that got curb stomped by Indiana and your boy Signetti. I think the biggest question is, how good exactly is UCLA at stopping screen passes?
Unfortunately, I think that might be what it comes down to. But there's things I think for sure you take away from the tape. But like, to answer your question with UCLA, I don't know how good they are. I don't think they know how good they are. But I think everybody knows and recognizes they're progressing gradually from how they looked the first, 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Ironically enough, it seemed like it kind of started to change at Penn State. They had some not great teams that they've had a tough schedule. When you go back and look at who they've played, they've had a tough schedule. So this isn't a team that you can just sleep on and think, oh, they got 2 wins, we're going to walk through them, because we've seen how that plays out in the past. But more importantly, for Rule specifically, and obviously the team, I view this point of the season as like this major crossroads. If you want to look at Rule's past in that 3-year progression, this lines up perfectly to continue kind of the progress that's been made. And it looked like it was going drastically downhill after Indiana. But a week later, you look back to last week, you almost had the biggest upsets the program's ever had. And hopefully they take that momentum and roll with it. But I'm talking about the crossroads, like, we've been in some close games and then pulled away from Purdue late and beat Rutgers. It was close, towards the end. That was kind of a back and forth deal. You did lose a close one, Ohio State, but I mean, Ohio State, it's a top 5 team. So you're kind of getting that monkey off your back. The whole idea you can't recruit at Nebraska is kind of starting to dissipate. But you have 4 shots at 4 very winnable games. I don't mean very winnable like they should win them all, or I expect them to. This is the most winnable, in my opinion, of the remaining 4 on the schedule. And I think this can really catapult the team, and especially Rule, going into that year 3, where people are really expecting to see the big improvement in the corner fully being turned. You take the pressure off of yourself by getting over the hump of the longest active streak of not getting to a bowl game for your next 3 games, which are going to be harder. You're going to USC, you're going to Iowa, and you've got Wisconsin at home in between there. But I kind of think Wisconsin might be the toughest of those 3. As far as the game goes, these guys seem to do one of the 2 things I've been saying for the offense, I've been begging for all year, is for Raiola to just take whatever yards are given to him when nothing's open downfield. He seemed to start doing that last week against Ohio State. But the quick passing game, when UCLA is having success in the last couple of weeks, their quarterback's not holding the ball much more than about 3 seconds. And I think for Nebraska, when I'm looking at when they have trouble with that, is a lot of times when the read isn't there inside that 3 seconds, that's when panic kind of ensues. He looks for the quick outlet. And if somebody can stay home with them, because that's kind of eating us up too, that's when they're in trouble. That's when they can't move the ball and they stall out drives. He's had a couple decent runs. He had one against Rutgers for a touchdown. A lot of their touchdowns come from a ways out because they've got speed once they get guys into open space. They've got 2 running backs that are not crazy fast, but fast enough. Very, very good balance, good vision. They bounce around. They don't go down easy. So, I mean, if Nebraska can play pretty sound, they don't have to be perfect on defense. This isn't Ohio State, but this isn't going to be a style that they're used to seeing. This isn't going to be a Rutgers or a Ohio State even style of a game. It's going to be more of the quick passes. I would assume they're game planning for Nebraska, looking at our offense matches perfect with the way this defense likes to leave such a cushion over the middle of the field. It's perfect for those quick timing routes where you snap the ball and get it out as quick as you can. I hope we've adjusted or make adjustments for that. I hope that if you're going to sacrifice one or the other, you're looking more to get pressure sacks instead of blitz sacks. Like, you're not sending too many guys, because things will be very tough to get home before they get the ball out. If you are leaving that cushion, they tend to leave. And then on the defensive side, watching them, they're not bad against the run. They really like to stack the box. They do a lot of bluff packages. A lot of times you see 6, 7 guys look like they're coming in, and they'd only blitz 4. And one of them would be a guy that wasn't looking like he's going to blitz. Everybody else drops. They do a decent job attacking the gaps for the running backs, but they seem to kind of get sliced up pretty good in the longer to medium range passing routes. So that's where I'm a little worried. Like, well, they're going to be all over the screens in the short 2-yard dump offs and things like that. So I think we'll see a lot of how much noise got through about the Satterfield deal. Like you obviously, I know you'll probably try to blame me for this one too, but you obviously had your cutesy little title for Satterfield on our last video. I've seen a lot of videos about him. I've heard a lot of talk on like the radio, things like that about him. Should he stay? Should he go? Seems like a lot of the fans want him gone. I'm curious to see how much, if any, of that makes a difference, or if there's been a kind of a Rule Satterfield meeting of like, okay, we did nothing but screen routes again, and we got the same results we typically get when those are getting shut down. So let's actually have a little variety in this offense and do some things that's going to let Dylan succeed. Man, if not, I mean, I don't know what, I mean, how long do you give it? How many screen passes do you give it on Saturday during the stream before you absolutely lose your shit? Or does it depend on if they're working or not?
UCLA should just get on the bus and go home if the screen pass is working. How could they not know that's what we're going to do? And hopefully they'll do something else. What I would like is running. I know you didn't think that they're that bad, but from the games I watched, they seem to be pretty susceptible to runs up the gut. So I want to see a lot of, I just want to see the Huskers play it straight. Run the ball as creatively as you feel like you need to. Don't make Raiola save you. I think if we get our running game going, it'll make passing so much easier. I'm not that intimidated by UCLA's defense. I may live to regret saying that. What I am a little worried about, though, is he's got wheels, something that the Huskers have always struggled with when it comes to the other team's quarterback. So how much is he going to use that, and will we be able to stop it? They give up 29 points a game. We give up like 18. I just see us winning this game. I'm going to go 28-17 Nebraska.
I agree. I'm pretty confident we'll win this game just because I think it's the easiest one left. And I still stand really strong that I think we're going to get to a bowl game and probably then some. But I don't want to get it twisted. I'm not saying like they've got this staunch run defense. It's just when I watched the highlights or, you know, some of the full games on the games I've watched, that line up and try to smash mouth. Minnesota did that. They were in kind of a battle, and down the stretch when they pulled away because that was a close game, they did it passing, especially to their tight ends, you know, kind of attacking the middle of the field and the spaces. The success Rutgers had, they got Manon guy. So, I mean, he had some decent runs on him. What really seemed to sustain their drives was the passing game, things like that. And then that was a closer game, you know, and they ended up winning that game. But you look at like Indiana spreads them out. Other teams that, you know, earlier on, like you can kind of go down the list when teams were kind of spreading them out and throwing, they just didn't have an answer. You know, the secondary wasn't there. The pressure on the quarterback, it was like an all or nothing. You know, they brought 2 extra guys instead of just one, or the 4-man front getting there. And a lot of times they got in trouble in the passing game because they like to send some extra guys. So on Nebraska's end, we've heard all year long they want to establish the run game, and we have yet to have a 100-yard rusher at a game. So I don't have a lot of faith. It's not so much just their defense. I think you play into their hand a little bit more by not attacking their weakest point, by running the ball. And then on the flip side, I don't feel like we've really dominated a team or even shown spurts where it's like, yeah, we'll just run the ball down your throat and there's nothing you can do about it. So maybe this is a game. I do have a lot of faith in our defense. I think that Ohio State game really like kind of put a surge back in them. I think that got them back in the mindset of, I used to have this defensive coordinator, and he would always constantly say, do your job and then be an athlete. And it just got so mundane, you don't think nothing of it. But it makes sense, especially when you hear what they're talking about. Like, don't try to be a superhero. Don't try to jump routes or have your eyes in the backfield when you're covering a guy. And you kind of saw that, you know, there was a couple plays that got burned on Ohio State, but for the most part, everybody played very sound football on defense, from tackling to gap assignment to playing their zone correctly, not too loose, not too tight and getting burnt. If that's kind of the shot in the arm they needed against Ohio State to get that mindset, I think they're going to be really tough to beat going down the stretch. I think this is the easiest game they have going down the stretch. Not saying it's a gimme. I'm going to say, just because of our defense, I'm going to say 16 UCLA. I'm going to say Nebraska, give me 34. Part of me saying that is I think that maybe your boy Satterfield is going to try and come out and be like, see, I can do more than screens, and maybe the offense will roll, but I'm also probably wishful thinking. So
please tell us your score prediction in the comments. We'll see you guys for the live stream on Saturday, 2:30. Until then, go Big Red.